One of the more shocking instances that happened that had to do with the current ID, identity politics and CRT making and waging warfare was an incident that happened at Arizona State University. I did a couple of videos on that. And basically, what happened is the Arizona State University bent the knee to the social justice warriors, and they created a space that they called a multicultural center. But it seems that the students who participated in creating this center had a very different idea about what its purpose would be, and the extent to which it was multicultural. It was multicultural to the exclusion of anyone else other than their culture, that their the culture of the activist identity, the cult of critical race theory, and the identity politics ideology. I want to bring on an interview. Okay, so we're talking about something that happened around September, and now allegedly the protagonist and the antagonist in this incident kicking two white students out of the multicultural center. Now she alleges that there's backlash, but check out the depth of victim identity which you hear in this interview, and the total obliviousness of having done anything that was inappropriate. She doesn't see anything wrong with what they did to these young men at Arizona State University. Let's check it out. Okay. This is the interview on Black News Tonight with Sarah
You
Tacola.
have a better. You're offensive. Police lives matter.
You have the same sticker.
We're just trying to do school.
What?
You guys have the same sticker of the other.
It was a big culture shock moving to a place like Arizona. It's just a very racist and not a friendly place for people of color. And so that was the environment that I started my PhD in. I am also
So the person that we're dealing with here is Sarah Tacola. Sarah Tacola. She's a PhD student at Arizona State University. She is approximately 30 years old. She seems to be dealing with, she is in fact dealing with two students who are, in her terms, white. She continues to call them white boys. She doesn't even call them young men. They're not men. They're white boys to her. So you can see the air of superiority, okay? And you will hear the essentially narcissistic, ideologically possessed rant, and you will hear an overarching viewpoint of complete victimhood throughout this interview.
one of the co-founders of Black Lives Matter Phoenix Metro. We felt like there was a need for an organization like ours in this state because of the culture and environment. And that's one of the things that we've told to ASU before, that on top of being a predominantly white institution, we also are in the environment, which is in Arizona, which is a hostile environment for people of color. You know, this is home of SB 1070, the Show Me Your Papers law for Mexican people. They banned ethnic studies here way before we were talking about critical race theory. And so there's a history of hostility against minorities in this state, and the campus is a microcosm of that culture that is very much alive and well.
I don't know what that's supposed to mean. I mean, what was this clip indicative of? I mean, who are they? I don't know. It's like you can just put up video about anything and say it means what it means to you. It doesn't mean anything to me. And she's describing an experience that is solely her experience based on her ideological perception. And it doesn't involve these two kids she ends up having an interaction with. It has nothing to do with them. So she's talking about this whole ideology and the whole state of Arizona, when what she did was put it on two young men inside the multicultural center. And that was a problem. That's what racists do. Racists form all these outside, exterior, hyper, uh, narcissistic, grandiose beliefs about the world, and then they put them on everybody.
Here.
Now let's go to the initial incident. Can you tell me what happened and why, why you felt like you needed to say something to the men who were sitting in the room?
And so I started a campaign in 2016 when I first came here, called the Multicultural Solidarity Coalition, which was a fight for a multicultural center and resources for students of color. And so
I am in no way related to Alyssa Wilson.
For years, the administration ignored us, silenced us, and told us no. And they said that we don't want a multicultural center. We want the whole campus to be a multicultural.
Kaboom, right there. I mean, this is what racism is. She wants to create a racist condition. She wants to create segregation. This is the insanity of this left-wing neo-Marxist ideology. The university tried to push back against this, and you'll see that they bent and they tolerated and they condoned and they tried to appease, and it backfired on them. Appeasing a Marxist backfires every time.
Center, so like the all lives matter approach. And so it wasn't.
All lives do matter. You literally do want you want to be judged by your individual merits, by who you are and what you have done. And we're hearing that you are becoming a professional social justice. You're 30 and you're making it your occupation to occupy ASU and do a hostile takeover and make a university bend to your political will. You're the worst. This is the worst of victim ideology.
Tell the George Floyd uprising that Michael Crow, the president at ASU, really got backed into a wall. And
so you see, she called it the George Floyd uprising. Okay, she doesn't even see him. See, this is what the left does, and this is what the ideological possession, being ideologically possessed, uses people in a utilitarian fashion. It wasn't really even about George Floyd. It was about promoting the ideology. It was about promoting the political identity politics that divides and destroys and disintegrates people and segregates people.
Had to finally listen to us. And so
they didn't have to listen to you. They caved to you. Because what happened with George Floyd had nothing to do with a university and the university wanting every space on the campus to be multicultural, to be integrated. And if you run across incidents where people are violating you because these young men involved in this incident did not do that, then you report it and you will be treated fairly and rightly, and they will be on your side. But when you're in the wrong, you're in the wrong.
Had written a 25-page proposal with all of the program services and what the center would look like. And what Crow ends up doing 4 days after our protest, which was like the largest one yet, he releases a 25-point plan for African Americans, which was a co-optation of our proposal, which he didn't give us any credit for. And if he had taken it word for word, we would have been fine. It's like, it's not about the credit. Okay, we won. But he didn't take the whole proposal. He took bits and pieces of it.
That's what life is like, young lady. That's really not a young lady anymore. really has no, you're in a space with these young people who are literally coming out of high school. But at 30, you should realize the world doesn't operate based upon you getting every aspect of everything you want handed to you on a silver platter. It just doesn't. The university's role is not to make you happy, it's to educate people.
And so there were many pieces, like he said, he'd give us a multicultural place, but he wouldn't call it a center. He wouldn't make it. Initially, it was supposed to be a scholar program for underrepresented minorities. He opened it up to everyone.
Oh my gosh, you mean it was opened up to everybody? Everybody was included, okay? Would that not be multicultural, okay? You don't have any idea, no one has any idea where these two young men who were involved in this incident, what economic background they came from.
And he didn't put any safety or security. And so within 2020, we actually worked with the administration and developed a 12-page governance and safety document, which we said this is what needs to be implemented. We created a leadership board. They didn't implement any of that. They went against our advice and they opened up the Multicultural Center without any governance, leadership, or security or safety. And within 2 weeks, that incident happened. And so I think that's important to contextualize this, because this very much could have been avoided if ASU listened to the students who are the reason that the center exists in the first place. So against our advice, they opened it up. And within 2 weeks, we have myself and my colleague were co-presidents of the Black Graduate Student Association. And so my co-president was holding a Black study table session. And these two white boys sit across from the Black study tables and start intimidating the Black students, putting their Police Lives Matter and other like Trump type.
There you go. That's what, and you see in this picture, the individual that is now in this interview is the one accosting, and I use the word assaulting. It's not a physical assault, but it's a verbal takeover where they're throwing them out of the Multicultural Center. Their offense, on his computer, he has a sticker that says police matter. Police lives, I guess it says in blue. Police lives matter. That's his offense. That's what the assault was. That's what the offense was. That's what was just triggered this incident. I don't know if this was
regalia towards us, start making nonverbal aggressive threats like this. So my co-president asked for help. And so initially I was actually in a meeting with ASU, talking about the governance of the center, and we get a picture of these boys in the act of doing it. And we're like,
again, they're not men, they're not young men, they're not of these students, of these male students. She refers to them as boys. They're actually legally adults, and they're actually expressing their constitutional ability to be in the multicultural center, and you're infringing upon that right.
Hey, this is exactly what we said would happen. It's happening now. Will you please address this safety incident? And they told us they would.
Safety. I mean, how do you feel unsafe by two people sitting at a table? And they left the audio out. And the guy that was initially speaking before this one, he had a genuine tone of voice, like absolute shock.
And then at the end of the meeting, we go back and we see the boys are still there and ASU hasn't sent anyone. We waited for 30 minutes for help and they did not come. And so we were forced to confront these white boys ourselves and tell them,
That was at least the third time she refers to them as boys. I actually, when I watched this initial incident, they seemed more mature and more adult than the two people berating them and kicking them out of the alleged multicultural center.
We asked nicely, they weren't listening. And then finally, it starts to escalate. That's when we turned on the cameras because we already knew how it goes down and how they're going to lie about what happened. And so at that point, the boys leave, but then we
Four
get told
times.
that we were the aggressors in this situation. And so while it's going viral and we're getting all this hate
Wait a minute.
and all sorts of real security issues.
Wait a minute. Let me go back here.
In the situation. And so while it's going, we turned on the cameras because we already knew how it goes down and how they're going to lie about what happened.
There's no need to lie. See, the university made their decision that Sarah Ticola and her cohort in crime were in the wrong based on video evidence. They filmed it, and then she posted it. And the young men filmed it also. Nobody lied. You were wrong. You were stone cold, flat out wrong.
And so at that point, the boys leave, but then we get told that we were the aggressors in this situation.
You were the aggressors in the situation. They had nothing to do.
And so while it's going viral and we're getting all this hate and all sorts of real security issues, ASU decides to open an investigation into us, saying that we were the aggressors.
What ended up coming from the schools?
So these people are a law unto themselves.
Investigation.
So they ended up saying that myself and the other woman of color, Mastani, who were forced to confront these white boys,
you were not forced to do anything. You chose to take it upon yourself to be judge, jury, and executioner of the multicultural space, because you are not multicultural, because this is a racist ideology.
Said that we disrupted the university environment, which, mind you, these white boys were the one disrupting the environment.
That's 5 times that they're white boys. Okay, that's what identity politics does. It divides people. It classifies, identifies, and stigmatizes people solely based on race or sex.
They were the ones in the multicultural center disrupting things, but
they're allowed to be there. There's no prohibition for anybody not being able to be anywhere on the university. That's what they're trying to tell you. They want the whole university to be multicultural. You are not prohibited from going anywhere else on the university based on your race, and you may not be even prohibited based on your sex with the current sexual identity politics being played.
Them, they didn't get in trouble at all. Instead, we were told that we're disrupting them, and now we're being told we have to write a 3-page paper. It's due next Wednesday.
So even though she continued to call these 2 young men white boys, you're getting an assignment to write a paper. This was the wrong way to handle it. You went about it the wrong way. This is the danger. This is the danger of this. It's truly dangerous.
Where we're going to explain how we'll be civil when we talk to white people about race in the future. So
no, it doesn't have to do with being civil to white people. It has to do with being civil to people. Okay? People. You don't this is the lost art of humanity. It's called civility. And it's called appropriate. You don't have the authorization to do what you did. You're stepping beyond. You're wanting so much power and control that it's literally possessing you. And the people who support this condone this. This quest for power and control. That's all it is.
We're going to do a video which will be parts of our press conference where we respond and talk about the history of respectability politics and how when Black students do not assimilate, we get attacked. And this is
Respect is a virtue. It's not a racial virtue. It's a virtue of a virtuous person. It has nothing to do with black students versus white students. It has to do with people going over the top and assuming that they have rights and responsibilities that they don't have. You do not have the responsibility to police a space. You should have called the appropriate people and made a complaint. But you really don't have anything to complain about because the problematic part of this situation was you being racist.
Continuation of that. And we were the victims in this situation, and we are the ones now being further victimized by.
Victimized. This is a victim ideology. It's solely based, and it's an illegitimate victimhood. And even when you're the perpetrator of the offense, you can't be held accountable or take any responsibility for your actions. It's really a mental illness.
By this predominantly white institution.
So incidents like this, are they common on the campus of ASU? What are some other things that have happened during your time there?
So every single semester.
So if something gets mentioned that happened, it doesn't have anything to do with this incident. See, that's what this whole ideology integrates every offense, every microaggression that they perceive, whether it's actual or fantasy wise, and holds everybody guilty of all offenses that have ever taken place anywhere, real or imagined.
Semester I've been on here, real neo-Nazi and white supremacist national groups like Identity Europa, Blood and Soil, anti-Semitic groups will post flyers. They'll post they've done banner drops telling Jews to go home. There's been like the N-word written, or things like white.
This may or may not have happened. There's absolutely no evidence. I mean, make a video. Since you're such an expert at making videos about things, make a video about this. And even if it did happen, the two young men may be just as opposed to that type of activity as you are, but they were never given the opportunity because you racially profiled them. Because those actions that you're saying took place didn't have anything to do with what these two young men were doing. Two totally separate things.
White people take your country back. This is a regular occurrence. It's happened since I've been here, and I don't know how long since before I've been there. But this is the culture of ASU, and we even have white men who call themselves pastors who go and they say Islamophobic things about Islam. They tell girls that they're eye raping them because they're in yoga pants. And the university not only protects them, they have police who sit there and push the students away, telling the students we're not allowed to react. And so this is the campus environment. Now
what does this have to do with these two young men at ASU's Multicultural Center? Absolutely nothing. And those events are alleged to have taken place. You know, what you did to these two young men definitely took place. You photographed it and they photographed it. And the nation saw it. And you should be, in humility and in sincerity, repenting of this racist ideology. But no, you're doubling down on it. And, there's a lot of people that back you doubling down on this racist ideology.
We're the ones who have had to take those posters, the white supremacist posters, down. The university usually doesn't. And when we brought it up to them, they said that, one, it's free speech, which is really funny because we're being targeted and told we have a student code of conduct violation for our speech, which is not protected. But when white men attack students of color, that's free speech. Furthermore, we were told that the university.
I have absolutely no idea what this pan to Black Lives Matter on the street has to do with what they're talking about happened in the multicultural space with two young white men. this is propaganda. This is how you propagandize people.
He has refused to put out a statement condemning white supremacy.
Now, have you ever felt like your safety was threatened or that you were in danger because of the incident that you said had gone viral?
Was very endangered. After the incident, we received thousands of death and rape threats. And in addition, the people who stood up for us were attacked as well, including we were on a radio show. They leaked not only our address, but even the guy, the DJ on the radio show. They leaked his address. They leaked my parents' address. I had to leave my house for a week. I had to get security for my parents in another state. I now have to ASU, I told them about these death threats. They refused to do anything about it. And so now I don't even feel safe coming on campus without security. And so I have to organize a team of security for me to even make an appearance on campus. In addition,
maybe they'll produce, maybe not. You know, I mean, I don't know if these things happen. Even if these things happened, it happened by people who were wrong. You know, you shouldn't have gotten the threats you got. You shouldn't have been exposed the way you were exposed. It still has absolutely nothing to do with what happened in the Multicultural Center that you handled the wrong way, that you were inappropriate with, that you attacked two of your fellow students. Okay. So, and this is,
in addition to that, it was just a very violent, racialized and gendered, sexualized hate that was directed toward us. In fact, they
not by the two students involved that you attacked, and essentially it was focally all about race and focally all about sex. And even in that, you can't even call them young men or men, you call them white boys. So the demeaning and discarding and disgraceful conduct that you continue to demonstrate towards them. And what I saw on the initial tape, and I might put it in this later, was they were respectful towards you. They were shocked and surprised. And it never, never, never should have escalated to where you took it.
They took our logo, the Multicultural Solidarity Coalition, and took my face and started making fake accounts and posting historic lynching photos with our logo on the people's heads. And
okay, there's been several numerous places where, and I'm going to end this. I'm going to shut this down. There's been several areas where they put media propaganda up in this interview, and I mean it just goes on and on and on and on. Victim, poor me, and we didn't do anything wrong, but they never showed any evidence, any emails, any of the things she alleges took place. There's nothing about that. There's no documentation. There's no police report. There's nothing. So this went way longer than I expected. In the description of this, I will put a link to the videos I did in the past, which show, and they basically went up to these two young men, ordered them out, said they were being offensive because of the Police Lives Matter sticker, and the young men had not said anything to them, hadn't looked their way, were totally minding their own business. And these two people, these two social justice warriors, chose to take it upon themselves and throw them out of the Multicultural Center. And it actually spoke up for the young man and said he didn't understand what their problem was. Well, tell me what you think. Tell me what your opinion is of the Multicultural Center at ASU and the victim ideology. All right, this is Brother Rob Wilson. Peace and love.